Yeah, for us, this whole journey started, I would say, probably with a knock on the front door. We didn't realize at the time what was happening, but the day that we found out that Justo was arrested for this crime, a few hours later, we had a knock on the front door, and well, we were in the middle of just shock, and I couldn't find the words to describe what we were feeling at that time. Like, this doesn't happen. So great disbelief, sadness, grief with our community, and there was a knock on the front door, and we went to open the front door, and it was our Amish neighbor. She had her 4 kids in tow with her, and she, with tears in her eyes, said, "You don't know this yet, but I was the teacher at Nickel Mines School when Charles Roberts came in." And she had in her left hand cucumbers and in her right hand some flowers. And her gift of presence to us in that moment was a gift of grace that was profound for us and met us in the space of deep grief and deep loss. And so she gave us a bag of cucumbers just as a way to say, there is hope, and God will take care of you. So there were moments like that repeated over and over and over again for multiple months that we as a family got to experience from the hands of the Amish community and from Linda's family themselves, that were an incredible gift of grace to us. And so in the moments, it wasn't about ever compiling them into anything at all. It was just, we were experiencing it as a family. Later, a couple years later, as my daughter and I were realizing that we were both processing our grief and trauma in the same way, we realized that we had some stories to tell about this. And realizing kind of the depth of the grace given to us, we wanted to extend that out to our community to perhaps also help with our own grief and trauma around this event as well. So that's maybe a longer story than you wanted, but that's how some of this came to be.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I want to hear all about it. And so, I mean, you touched a little bit upon the emotions that you guys had to process going through this. Just talk a little bit, more about that. I mean, tell us a little bit about Justo, how you knew him, and I mean, you said disbelief.
Yeah. I have known Justo since I started dating my wife now, Jen. We've been married for 25 years and dating a few years before that. So when I first got to meet Justo, he was a fun kid, athletic, energetic, adopted from Costa Rica, and so had some challenges from his past for sure. Probably the depth of which I didn't quite understand or know how to help him with necessarily. But Justo, man, as a high school kid, again, just full of promise and delight and strength, truthfully. He ended up going to prison for some crime earlier, right after he graduated from high school, essentially. So when he came out of prison this past time, he was committed never to going back again, and it was good to see that in him. I've known him, I would say I've known him to, yes, be wrestling with some things from his past, but also to be a guy who's pretty, who cares about people, who doesn't want to hurt people, but does wrestle with some stuff from his past. So when this went down, and we saw the breaking news that day that it was Justo who was arrested for this crime, I remember sitting in my kitchen. I was standing there by our counter, and I saw the headline come across my computer, and I just let out an audible "no," and I slammed my hand on the counter and sat down in just complete disbelief. I had no words for it. It completely overwhelmed me and overwhelmed our family, because this isn't Justo. This isn't who we know. It just didn't seem possible that this could be him. So the shock and surprise was profound. The anger and grief, and even truthfully the sense of shame and guilt by proxy, wishing that we could have done something as a family, as people who love and still love Justo, just wanting to have been able to do anything to prevent this. So those were some of the things that we were feeling and walking through.
So, you come to this decision to write the book. Talk a little bit about, has it been kind of a way of healing as well, as you sit down and wrote it?
Yeah. It has been a source of healing for us to write this book, and we hope it can be a source of healing and help for anyone who's going through pain or trauma or difficulty who might read the book as well. But it has been very healing to revisit the experiences we've had with the kind of mercy and grace we got at the hands of the Amish community. Someone once said that words are the tools we use to create reality. And I found that to be a really profound idea. And so the words that we've put into this book and into this story, we hope will help kind of reframe a reality around what happened with Linda, that it was indeed like such a tragedy and I would say such an evil that happened. That is true. At the same time, what we experience is that the power of grace and mercy is equal to the task of being greater even than the worst things that we experience. So that power has been profound to us, and that's what we want to share, with people.
So over the last couple of years, has anyone from the family gone to visit Justo in jail? Have there been conversations? What has that been like? And does he know that you're writing the book?
Yeah. Different people in the family in different ways have connected with Justo over the years. And so he's doing as about one might expect one would be doing when you come to terms with the weight of what he has done. And I think I experienced him to really come to terms with that in the courtroom on the final sentencing when I was there and saw him handcuffed and listening to the victim impact statement, and then through tears apologizing to Linda's family, and then turning around and saying to my father-in-law, I'm sorry, I've been loved better than this, and wiping the tears from his eyes, taking responsibility, albeit way too late. This doesn't, you can't make this better if you understand what I'm saying. You can't bring this back. But he has come to terms with what he has done, and his sentence is effectively a life sentence. So he is doing as one might expect, dealing with the weight of what he's dealing with now. So we have been in touch with him, and he is, I believe he's aware that the book is coming out. Although truthfully, this may not go on air, I can't confirm that, but I believe so.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does it mean to you guys to see the grace that you have from Linda's family, the Amish community? What does that mean? That's
a great question. It would have made more sense for us to receive anger and condemnation. That's what we would have expected. Based on what happened and on the weight and gravity of what happened, it would have made a whole lot more sense. And we would have almost welcomed it to kind of be the people who people might get upset with and angry with, like, why didn't you do more, whatever. So it has meant so much to us to be confronted with what we call kind of the uncomfortable weight of grace. They have to face their forgiveness and mercy the way that we have. It's been really uncomfortable, but really healing in a way that words can hardly describe.
My only other big question really, I think, is, your message out there. Obviously, unfortunately, there are a lot of people across the world that commit heinous crimes every day.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of innocent family members that, like you guys, have to kind of go through all of those emotions.
Yeah.
And what's your message to anyone out there who might unfortunately find themselves in a similar position?
Yeah, that's a great question too. My message to them would be that redemption is always more powerful than tragedy. It always is. Tragedy is real. The pain that they're experiencing is real. Their story is real, and I would not debate that with them, and I would not compare stories with them. But I would want to encourage them that there is always redemption somewhere to be found, and that the storyline of redemption is always more powerful than the storyline of tragedy in their lives.
So how old were you when this all kind of happened?
I was 2020. What in the world? Dad, was I 19? I can't even, okay. When this all happened, I believe I was 19.
So I guess kind of, I asked your dad, but like going through it yourself, what was the whole thing kind of like?
Yeah, it was unlike anything I've ever experienced. It was hard. It was sad, scary. I mean, the immediate experience of, processing, okay, this was really him. He did really do this. And now where do we go from here? It was sad. It was hard to think about. It was hard to reconcile that this had actually happened and it was actually him. But on the other end, the receiving grace and mercy and kindness, that was also hard in a way. Like he said, it was very countercultural, maybe, not what we expected to receive. And so receiving that was just man, I wouldn't have expected this. Maybe I would have from their community, but still in a space that we were sitting as Justo's family, it wasn't necessarily what we thought maybe the reaction would be. And so it was hard. It was life-changing, receiving that grace and that kindness from them.
Yeah. And so, writing this book, what was it like writing it with your dad?
Yeah, that was a lot of emotions. I think we dug into our emotions in a way together that we hadn't quite yet and wouldn't necessarily have done in another setting. It was cool to hear and see, from his eyes, the ways that he saw the situation potentially different from me, from his age or his life experience, or even just his perspective as a father and as a dad, just knowing, what if this was my daughter? He saw it in a different way where I saw it, what if this would have been me? Or just seeing things from a different perspective. So that was really beautiful. And it was also just really healing for both of us. Just a process of, what did I feel in this space? How do I work through it? Where do we get to on the other side? Yeah.
So how did you settle on the title of the book?
Yeah, good question. Beechdale Road is both a figurative and literal title. Literally, it's, where Linda lived. It's where this event happened. But figuratively, I think for us, it's an image of, can we turn Beechdale Road into not only the place that this horrific event happened, but also the place where we found redemption and mercy and grace from her family. And so it's a space where we found those things. And so it's almost like a renaming of the road for us in our own mind. When we drive past the road, rather than feeling all of those feelings of angst and guilt and anger and fear and sadness, it is still those things, but it's also a reminder of the grace and the mercy that we experienced from the Amish.
And for someone who would, pick up the book and, you kind of read that, inside flap of, what's it about, how would you kind of describe it in that way?
Yeah, I would say it's a real wrestling of what we've processed and what we've been through. So it deals with the hard emotions of the fear and the anger and the just shock of what happened and how it affected our family and how it affected Linda's family and her community. But at the same time, it also wrestles with the truth of redemption is always more powerful than tragedy, and of this is what it looked like to experience grace. This is what it looks like to experience mercy. How can you, even a challenge of how can you do that for someone else in your life? Yeah.
I know your dad mentioned that there's a cause that kind of goes along with the book and everything. Do you want to touch more on that?
Yeah, so Linda she helped in a traditional one-room schoolhouse. She specifically helped with children with special needs. And so we are donating a portion of the proceeds of this book to Amish special education.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you guys been in contact with Linda's family at all recently? Do they know the book is coming out?
Yes.
Talk about some of those conversations, how they're feeling about it.
Yeah, they do. Linda's family does know that the book is coming out. We have their blessing to write it, which is really special for us. We've gotten to know her family and her really close friends pretty well, I'd say, over the last 4 years. We've gotten together with them, I don't know how many times, several times in our home, once in their home. They've brought dinner for us. Her friends have brought dinner for us. They've brought youth groups to sing for us. We've gotten together for different occasions. And so that ongoing relationship has been really special, just to experience different, anniversaries or milestones of this event together. We'll often communicate with them on, an anniversary of one of the dates throughout this process, or just check in to see how each other are doing. And so that's been a really cool relationship to form.